Folks, normally this is one-on-one. Sometimes it winds up being one-on-two when you have two terrific people. We'll see them right now. Barry Ostrowsky is President and Chief Executive Officer of Barnabas Health, and Joetta Clarke Diggs, backed by popular demand, spokesman for the Matthew J. Morahan III Health Assessment Center for Athletics at Barnabas Health. Good to see you.
Nice to see you
Good
as
to
well.
see both of you.
Good
Can I just clarify a couple things? Joetta, you are a four-time Olympian, Olympic gold medal winner?
Well, I'm a four-time Olympian. I don't have the gold medal in the sport, but I got the gold medal of life by being an Olympian.
Now, Barry, would you like to share?
I never made an Olympic team that I could recall. We were undefeated in high school football one of my years.
Yeah, Barry likes to point out that I have 4 Emmys, and he says that Emmys are not as impressive as being an Olympian. He's right.
Oh, wow. I beg to differ, but thank you.
You know what's so great about this is that there's a connection between the two of you.
Right.
But as Barry knows, there's a connection all the way back, because the Matthew Morahan Center, when it opened, the day it opened, the night it opened, I remember, there's a connection back to our mutual friend,
sure,
Rondell Morrow, who made a lot of this happen. Make the connection as to what the center is, Barry, and why it's so important, and then we'll bring Joetta in.
Well, as you point out, Matthew Morahan III was Rondell Morrow's nephew, and
who was the former CEO
of Barnabas Health. And Matty Morahan III, unfortunately, tragically died, and his family endowed this center. Matty himself was a great athlete, and so we wanted to somehow honor his memory in an effective way for young athletes everywhere throughout New Jersey. And this center specializes in evaluating potential conditions that young athletes have. So we do cardiac screening. And in cardiac screening, what was stunning to us is by doing more than 4,000 young athletes, we found 13% of them had reasons to go beyond the screening. So there they were, young prospective athletes that had something connected with cardiac that needed to be checked out further. The other specialty of the center is concussion evaluation. We see a lot of that in the public press, whether it's football or other sports where there is head trauma. Athletes are anxious to get back in the game, anxious to get back on the field, and we really have to know whether that's something that's appropriate. So in evaluating concussions, you need to have a baseline look at the neurological status of these young athletes, which we're able to have. And then in the event of a concussion, we can compare what's happened during this traumatic event with baseline. We're very excited about it because it's a statewide program. We're bringing it to the high schools and the athletic departments. We have a mobile van that we're using, and we're hopeful that parents and schools alike will embrace this. I will tell you, we can't have a better spokesperson than Joetta, because she is the personification of not only a great citizen and a great athlete, but she has a real genuine interest in young athletes. And this is what it's about.
Talk about what it means to be a spokesperson for this terrific center.
Well, I'm very excited because it allows me the opportunity to align myself with the center, because they are committed to making sure that young athletes across the state of New Jersey understand and get screenings for cardiac and coma. When you're young, and even when you're older, sometimes you don't realize the importance of prevention. And because the center is excited and they have the knowledge and the mobile units and the free screenings that they're going to have, they have their finger on the pulse of what is needed to make sure that these athletes are participating and they're having healthy lifestyles, and that's very important.
Joetta's been with us several times before, and Barry and I talk about big picture healthcare issues as well, but we're talking about kids. We're talking about kids who are vulnerable, and who believe that they are invincible. And sometimes get into positions where they can, if left to their own devices, hurt themselves. So therefore, they need adult supervisions, coaches, trainers, doctors, and parents. There's an important role to be played by those adults.
Well, I think that's one of the issues, Steve. There's so much pressure on young athletes to be successful. All the role models we see on TV, all the glamour associated with professional sports, and because youth is fearless, and I think there's a great attribute there. You don't want to be scared of your own shadow. You want to be a competitor. So someone's going to have to help find the line. And what we need to do is educate parents on what that line is. And here's a great opportunity to get an evaluation of your young athlete so that we can make sure we're not asking or inviting that young athlete to do things that's contrary to his or her best health. And I think that's what's exciting about this. And I think what we stand for as a healthcare system is we would prefer to have people who are healthy.
That's right.
And so this is one of those community interventions where we can say to people, look, before you get sick or before you make yourself sick or injured, let's find out about you. And so now you know, I am healthy enough to do this activity, I'm not, I should go back to doing it, I shouldn't. But this is important information to keep people healthy as opposed to waiting for people, unfortunately, to have an event that means they're sick or injured.
The other part of it, which I find interesting, is that, and by the way, log on to the website, you can, after my name gets off there, you'll see the website that comes up. Sports injuries and rehab. I'll give you some of the areas, folks, that you can find out that actually are being taken care of at the Matthew J. Morahan III Health Assessment Center for Athletics up at Barnabas Health. Sports injuries and rehab, prevention, sportsmanship, nutrition, exercise, and conditioning. Can we talk, because last time you were here, we talked a lot about conditioning, exercise, nutrition. Talk about that part of it and how important it is.
The exercise and fitness part, through my foundation, we do a lot of programs, but what we want to let them know is that if you're not healthy, if you're not monitored, then you can't compete. And it's also very important, if someone's watching this, parents, and they're saying, well, my kids are not athletes, but we still provide service and treatment for you at the center. They can still come and get screenings in the cardiac and coma area. So it's not just for the young athletes across the state, it's for all other people as well.
It's so interesting because a kid can get a concussion, right, Barry? You don't have to be a competitive athlete in a situation playing at the highest level where a head injury could create all sorts of issues.
Of course, absolutely. And again, I think every activity you're in, if you recall headlines about members of marching bands and cheerleading and the like, this is not just about the football player or the lacrosse player. I think we tend to push children rightfully, and Joetta, I'm sure, would agree, into being active. We certainly don't want children sitting on the sidelines doing nothing. So if you need to be active, let's just make sure you are up to being active, and let's find out about it. There, for years, of course, and generations before us, people didn't want to know these answers. So now that we have the ability to find these answers, why not find the answers and make sure we treat what has to be treated? But I do think it's connected to trying to make people understand that being active and using the right nutrition and making sure your lifestyle is consistent with good health is an important part. Mm-hmm. We glibly say four-time Olympian. Do people really understand what it takes to be on the Olympic team? I mean, that kind of discipline and that kind of commitment to lifestyle is something that's beyond most of us.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
And how did you put that in context in terms of injury prevention, conditioning, nutrition, all the things? This part of the things that the Morahan Center are all about.
Well, I'm going to tie in one personal story because when, our time is back in the day, but the reality is back then I had a heart murmur. And when we heard that, 30 years ago, we thought that was the end of the world. So we had to go through screenings to make sure I was okay, but the screenings were not as intense as what we have over at the Morahan Center. But my point is that because it was identified, we were able to watch it, and when I monitor it. If I'm sweating, my heartbeat was higher than normal. But then it got to a point where it was nothing serious. But in some cases, it would be. So that's why the center's expertise would be great. With the heart murmur that I had, I am in no place to compare what I had to more serious heart situations. However, I was able to overcome that because we caught it earlier. And I went on to make 4 Olympic teams. It's
so important because you get that baseline information and you compare it to what happens over time. But without the baseline, there's nothing to compare it to. By the way, the website's been up throughout the entire time of the Matthew J. Morahan III Health Assessment Center for Athletics at Barnabas Health, and Rondell Morrow, your predecessor, and a mentor who brought all of us there. And if it were not for Ron, that would not have happened. Unfortunately, it happened under tragic circumstances, but because of tragic circumstances, sometimes some great leaders make something special and important happen out of it, particularly because the family came together and made that happen. So from that opening night, to think that we come here today and that Joetta is part of this, and David Deal is the other co-spokesperson. Do yourself a favor, folks. Go on that website, get the information. Parents, young people, important information, because of Barnabas Health are committed to it. To Barry and Joetta, I want to thank you for joining us. This is worth going 1-on-2.
Thanks so
Appreciate it.
much.
Thank
Great
you,
to
Alex.
see you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.